If you love the violence and storytelling of that adult-themed animated Invincible on Amazon Prime, then you may want to check out The Legend of Vox Machina that's also coming to Prime Video. This is a fantasy adventure series with lots of blood and gore, but is the story worth checking out? This follows Vox Machina, a band of misfits with a fondness for boozing and brawling. In a desperate attempt to pay off their mounting bar tab, these unlikely heroes end up on a quest to save the realm of Exandria from dark magical forces. From a sinister necromancer to a powerful curse, the group confronts a variety of obstacles that not only test their skills, but also the strength of their bond. Each episode is just about 30 minutes, and these will come in weekly releases, with the first 3 coming out initially, and then 3 episodes will come out each week for a total of 12 in this first season. Now, this review is going to quickly focus on just the first 3 that are initially being released. To give some context on how this show came to be, the production notes that came along with the screeners stated that this is based on the characters and the adventures of Critical Role's first live-stream tabletop role-playing game campaign. Critical Role is a story-driven media company who's created by just a group of voice actors that started out just sitting around a table together as friends, creating some epic stories. Then back in 2019, they launched a Kickstarter campaign to produce an animated special. They met their initial funding goal within minutes, and then thanks to just the passionate fan base of Critical Role, the campaign raised like over $11 million, which I think is crazy, and it became one of the most funded film and video projects in Kickstarter history. So like I mentioned, this is an adult animated show with plenty of blood, gore, and profanity. And the voice cast is really good, and they play well off of each other with a lot of chemistry. And while I wasn't familiar with many of the cast by name, there are a few that did stand out to me because we've seen a lot of them just in front of the camera with live action. There's Stephanie Beatrice, David Tennant, Tony Hale, Indira Varma, and supposedly, even though I haven't seen him in an episode yet, Dominic Monaghan. This has a bit of a short attention span theater to it, where there are quick quips of dialogue and tones that kind of change often to keep everybody engaged. I mean, it is cheesy in parts, but that cheese also works with this misfit band of warriors. The animation is drawn and filmed in spectacular ways. I mean, the world is really engaging, and I love how so much of the surroundings contain motion, so that the entire scene feels alive. Now, sometimes in anime-style shows, the backgrounds are just going to be static and they're painted. And they're still beautiful, but they're not dynamic with motion. I mean, in this, the whole thing just feels more cinematic. Now, there are a bunch of heroes that we follow, and each of them get a quick introduction in the first episode to at least establish who the team is. Now, as the episodes go along, we do get some more development, but also we have the opportunity to learn about them from their interactions and their quests. The first 2 episodes really help to establish the world and then send our group on a quest to hunt down this unknown force that's wreaking havoc and destruction on a kingdom. They don't know what they're up against, but because they're broke and they need the bounty, Vox Machina pursues the threat. But I love that the story also includes mystery, intrigue, and deception in addition to all the crazy action that we see. And there is this rock score that plays during most of the action sequences, and it really works to complement what we're watching. I mean, it's not overpowering, but it's also not hidden in the background. I mean, it's mixed really well so that we can still hear the dialogue, all the while we have just these chugging and driving guitars. But then also the score is cinematic and orchestral at times. I mean, it adds the right amount of drama and even seems to contradict a scene, but really the music enhances the tone rather than it distracts. There are many story complications that are introduced, and I love how these make our characters more complex and then engaging. And while we get a taste of all of those players in the first 2 episodes, like I had said, in episode 3 we learn more about Percy, one of the group, and his backstory. And it's fun to watch a character who prides himself on propriety and manners get all flustered when confronted with issues from his past. Now, some of the continuous sex joke humor did get a little old to me, but it also fits perfectly with one of the more juvenile acting characters, so then it makes sense. I mean, even if it was less entertaining as they went along. There's quite a bit of peril involved with the show so far, and I really like how there are many times that it's uncertain if all of the players are going to make it out alive. I mean, this adds some good suspense and tension to the story, which then made me invested all the more in what was going on. When episode 3 ends, it's very exciting and should leave you begging for more. I mean, I think if you have watched Invincible or even become enamored as I did with Netflix's Arcane, this could help fill that void until those other shows return. The writing is witty, the humor mostly works, but the most important feature is the story, which is very effective and engaging. The quest the show begins with is entertaining, but once we start to get to the meat of the characters, that's when I became really invested. I think this could become a new favorite of yours, especially if you enjoy the more adult themed animated series. There's sex, nudity, a ton of profanity, and a great deal of bloody violence. I give episodes 1 through 3 of The Legend of Vox Machina 4.5 out of 5 couches. What are some more adult themed animated shows that you enjoy? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.